Hello, everybody. So I am a little bit early with my live today, but I have a couple of stories to share. So the the first one I want to start with is the passing of Dolly Parton. So I did a quick short on the other day, and it did come up as a shock, her passing. I know that she wasn't doing well, and there were some things that she had, mentioned as in just not feeling well, and she had to cancel a few things. One of the things that she did say that struck everybody was the fact that while her husband, because her husband just passed away about 6 to 7 months ago. And she had mentioned that during the time that she was caring for him, that she, neglected some things about herself. Like she didn't pay attention to some of the signs and symptoms of the things that were going on with her. And so, after he passed, she was trying to, focus on herself, give herself some of the care that she needed. Apparently, her cause of death was cancer. But a little short bio, so some things that I didn't know about her that I learned about her recently, and then I'll talk about the thing that really stuck with me the most. So she was born on January 19th of 1946 in Locust Ridge, Tennessee. She was one of 12 children in a poor musical household. She began performing as a child and moved to Nashville as a teenager to pursue her music career. She became one of the most successful country music singers and songwriters in the history of the whole thing, with her biggest hit that everybody kind of knows is Jolene. And then there's the one, she sang the song 9 to 5, and then she also sang the song Coat of Many Colors. Um, she wrote the song "I Will Always Love You" that of course Whitney Houston brought into the public sphere, and it became one of the most popular songs. It hit the billboards and the charts and everything, but she's the one who wrote that song. And it is said that the royalties that she created for that song she put back into the community. And so she did a lot of different things to help the community with the royalties that were created from that song. So it says her music career spanned into acting, of course. Notably, she was in 9 to 5. She was in Steel Magnolias, and The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas is another show that she was in. So Steel Magnolias, that was the one of the first shows that I ever watched that really gripped me. Like I cried. So if you haven't seen that show, I don't know if you're sentimental and very empathic and various things like that, and you cry at shows at watching movies, I don't know if you should watch it or not, but it's good. Like it'll hit home. Like you will feel all the feelings watching that show. So beyond entertainment, she was widely recognized as a philanthropist. Uh, Here's the thing that I most utterly respected her for, and that is her imagination library. It has provided millions of free books to children around the world. And so what happens is, if a family goes on to the imaginary library website, you can enroll your child, and your child will receive one free book a month for up to 5 years, up to the time that they're 5 years old. Now, I know I'm hearing that that program is in jeopardy a little bit, but I'm also hearing that her foundation has promised to keep that going. I'm not sure how long they'll keep it going for, but her foundation are promising to keep that going, because you can imagine that it's a multi-million dollar affair to be able to, to send so many books across so many places. There's so many countries that that book is in. I mean, it's in Ireland, it's in England, it's in, just many different parts of the world. And so it's a huge feat that she took on, and they did it really, really well. Um, her father was actually illiterate, and he still managed to take care of his family and raise his family and things like that. But that's one of the reasons why she said that she opened the library, It's because she realized that when you read, um, you can do almost anything. When you read, you can do almost anything. And you can also transport yourself to places that you would ordinarily not go, and things like that. So, she grew up in this very poor family, and reading was the one thing that she realized that can help a child get out of that poverty stricken situation and things like that. So, her story is often described as one with determination, creativity, generosity, and staying connected to her roots. She loved her Tennessee roots and she never forgot her Tennessee roots, even though she helped so many people all around the world were impacted by her generosity, her kindness. Her sister has come out and spoken, and she has said, if you want to, memorialize Dolly Parton in any way, show kindness, show kindness, give, show generosity, because that's the kind of person she was, and that's the kind of person she wanted all of us to be. And so that's what we need to continue doing along the way. And so rest in peace, Dolly Parton. You shared so much with this world, even though you were in, you know, the poorer side of town. You came out of there, you made your millions, and you gave back. That was the most important thing, is that you believed in giving back, you believed in sharing with the world, and you did it in your music, you did it with your money, and you did it with the Imagination Library, and in so many other ways that we have yet to learn. And so now we move on to a different, totally different story, and that is the quintuple homicide that happened in Forest Grove, Oregon. So, in Grove, Oregon, it says that so 8 people were killed in that um, situation. No, I'm sorry, 5 people were killed in that incident. So authorities say that 36-year-old Benjamin Parker is the suspect in the killing of 5 people at a rural home near Forest Grove, Oregon. Investigators identified the victims as 3 generations of the Kimsey family. So Mary Elizabeth Kimsey was 85 years old. Rowan Carla Kimsey was 60 years old. That was her daughter. And then Stella Jade Kimsey was 26 years old. That was her granddaughter, Elizabeth's granddaughter. Also killed were Lindsay May Haroldson. She was 26. Stella Kimsey's best friend. And Haroldson's 27-year-old partner, Alvin Raymond Chu. And so there were some people that did not belong to this specific family that were there at the time, and they were also killed by Benjamin Parker. Authorities said that Parker was Stella's boyfriend and believed he killed his partner. Her mother and her grandmother, as well, were the 2 victims. So Parker was later found dead. He was actually found in his car, um, along the road. The tragedy also resulted in the passing of 2 cats and 2 dogs. There was a 3rd cat that survived, but was later euthanized because of their injuries. The Forest Grove Fire Department discovered the remains while responding to a house fire at 5 a.m. on Saturday, prompting law enforcement to investigate. Authorities have not yet disclosed the motive in this situation. Neighbors described the area as a close knit rural community where people genuinely looked out for one another. Another neighbor, his name is Paul, told OPB News that the Kimsey family had a good reputation in the community and that their absence will be felt. And so they're trying to figure out what the motive is in this case. I know when the news first broke, I was kind of waiting to see if they would, publicize more and give more information. But unfortunately, there hasn't been more information given, and I guess we will get in more information as time goes by. But he won't be the perpetrator won't be there to stand trial, and that's one of the things that's the most frustrating things in cases like this is that the perpetrator is not there to stand trial or to give information as to why they did this heinous crime, and things like that. And so we will have to wait for investigators to, I guess, do a forensic study. Maybe they'll find, sometimes people write a memo, they write letters, they show they're like maybe postings and things like that that they post that eventually become clues as to why they did something like this. And so we'll have to wait and see if they, report any of those things. So moving along to one of my favorite charity organizations. I had to speak about this charity organization because I work with and I have worked with people who experience homelessness. And one of the most frustrating things and the hardest things to do when you work in the case management side of things is to be able to find housing for people who are homeless. And so when you work in the mental health field, you have people who will have co-occurring disorders, what we call co-occurring disorders. Those co-occurring disorders can be like bipolar disorder with an addiction, schizophrenia with an addiction, major depressive disorder with an addiction, so it's two disorders, two things happening at the same time. And a lot of times, those individuals will be put in the category of having chronic mental illness or chronic addiction. If their addiction, lasts over a period of time, and if their mental health continues to struggle over a period of time. I have rarely met anybody who, after we go through a couple of sessions, um, I've rarely met anybody who won't identify a underlying condition that propels them into using the substances in the first place. And so it'll usually have started as them self-medicating. And they may not have realized that they were self-medicating. They may have thought that they were just trying things along with other people, or they heard somebody else say something about the way that they were feeling on this drug or substance, and therefore they decided, oh, let me try it. But when you dig deeper and you ask the right questions, you'll find that they started using a substance because they were self-medicating, and then it really spiraled out of control. And so usually when people are using, substances, abusing substances, I usually tell them it's not even about the substance, it's about what it takes away from you. And that's the place to start, is what has this drug taken away from me? And that usually starts that process of healing. Yes, there may be a relapse or two, but if the person really hones in on what the substance has taken away from them, and then also thinking about what they were trying to self-medicate in the first place, um, that really starts the healing journey going. So this organization is called H2L, H2 Love Community Center, and it's in Baytown, Texas. And it was started by Candace Wells. She has her nonprofit organization, and what they do is they provide safe nights. So it's an emergency shelter. It functions out of hotels. And so she has, I believe it's one particular motel that she works with, and she has a deal with them. They give her a certain number of rooms per night. And one of the things that my case manager heart just feels so good about this organization about is that she will post very regularly that she has an opening. And if you've worked with anybody that's homeless, anybody struggling with their mental health and addictions and things like that, one of the hardest things to do is to find the person housing. A lot of the times, if the person has like chronic mental illness, chronic substance use, their family just gets exhausted. Their family gets tired. They're unable to deal with the interpersonal conflicts and things that happen, and rightly so. But then this individual is now on the street and they're homeless. And I mean, just imagine trying to function, um, just take care of your mental health itself, or stay sober, and you're on the streets, and then you're prescribed medication. That's something that's so hard to keep up with, because once you're trying to to better yourself, you're trying to take care of your mental health, you're trying to stay sober. One of the first things that we always advise people to do is to create a routine. Create a good routine throughout your day, create a good bedtime routine, create a good morning routine, and then plan out a good day. And that is so hard to do when you are homeless. And so, as case managers, our first task is to look at Maslow's hierarchy of need. We're trying to make sure that this person has their basic needs met. And, in a lot of cities, I'm seeing in a lot of cities across this country, it is so hard to get housing. It's so hard to get shelter for the individual. And so I like this emergency shelter that Candace has, because she'll post, "Oh, I have an opening. I have an opening for a male. I have an opening for two males or two women, or different things like that." And she's pretty. It opens pretty frequently. Every other day there is an opening, and she posts it. It's in real time, and things like that. And she provides hygiene bags and various things for people. And then she goes even further, and she'll provide care, like see if the person is eligible to go to a group home. So sometimes people are eligible to go to a group home because they may have social security benefits, that they can then go to a group home and use those benefits in a group home. Or she can help in a way that if the person is capable of doing it, she'll help them find a job. And sometimes she helps people find like house manager jobs, just various things like that. And then she'll get them on their way. And it turns over pretty fast. Like, she tries to get people moving pretty fast. And she tries to get them in the right position pretty fast. So she does the ultimate of all the caseworkers' jobs, because she does it all. She's housing them, she's helping them find the mental health care. If she can help somebody get into rehab, she'll help them get into rehab. She has people that she connects people with that also help with this situation. So if she can't do it directly, she'll call somebody who can directly help the person and things like that. So I really love her organization, because she does everything in her power to help people. And it's not an easy job, as you can tell, as you can, just thinking about it, it's not an easy job. And she does it with grace. She does it. She gives these people their dignity. She really, really, really helps the people in Baytown. So her organization is only in the Baytown area, and she helps people that are in that area. Some people, she knows them very well. Some people are new to her program, but she helps everybody as much as she can, even if it's just giving them that safe night and giving them a shower. She does that. And so, yeah, so thank you, Candace Wells, and your organization, H2L Community Center, for all the things that you do for the people of Baytown. We could all learn a lesson from Candace and her organization and how she does it, because she helps a tremendous amount of people in a very short period of time. All right, so on to another case. So there was flooding recently in Nepal, and so it's become a very um, sad situation, in that there are a lot of people who have passed away in the flooding. Some of them are foreign nationals, from many different countries. So it says, let's see, there are 596 foreign nationals from 33 countries that remain missing. And so there are lots of recovery efforts. And then, of course, the native people of Nepal as well. And so there's just a lot going on there with rescue missions and rescue efforts. The UN is, part of the efforts, and UNICEF is there. And UNICEF, they specifically work to help children in the area. There are so the United Nations, UNICEF is part of the United Nations. They're asking other countries and other people if they can go and help with the search and rescue missions and things like that. And so we will keep our ears and eyes open. I'm pretty sure that the typical, like the Red Cross, who typically goes, all of those emergency responders will be responding. I think I read somewhere that there are at least 3 American nationals that are currently missing at this point in time. And so obviously, the US will go there. The US typically goes when there is, a huge natural disaster and crisis like that, and helps with the emergency response teams. And so I don't think that this will be any different, that they will go and they will help. But obviously, pay attention to the tourism bureaus. It was a tourism bureau that reported on the nationalities or the nationals that are missing from other countries, because they kind of keep track of who's coming in and out of the country. That's why it's important, when you go through customs and your passport is stamped and you get a visa and all of those different things, they keep track of those numbers. And so that's how they know these people are missing, and are unaccounted for at this time. I'm pretty sure they'll be accounted for as time goes along, but let's keep the people of Nepal in our prayers. Let's keep these tourists in our prayers. Let's keep the children in our prayers as they go through this devastating time of recovery, and having to respond to this kind of an emergency at this time. And so let's move on to the next story. The next story, it comes from Billings. So let me see if I can. Okay, so here's the timeline. So we'll start the timeline. So the breaking news is a timeline that reveals how the Billings shooting and house fire unfolded. So authorities have released a detailed timeline of that shooting in Billings, Montana. The neighbors, the houses, some of the houses were well, this particular house, I'm sorry, was engulfed in flames. And so firefighters and everybody had to come there. And so according to the information from Newsweek, investigators say that the events began on Wednesday. And so it says at 5:49 p.m., Alan Smith arrived in the neighborhood. At 6 p.m., neighbors reported hearing sounds that initially they described as fireworks. By 6:02, a woman called 911 asking for help and reported that people were hurt. And there were gunshots that were reportedly heard in the background. At 6:10, Yellowstone County Sheriff deputies arrived, followed shortly by the Billings police. Officers confronted Smith, who was in the front yard, but he retreated into the home and fired off additional shots while he was in the home. At 6:11, a fire engine was staged nearby the scene because the scene was not yet secure, and so they were trying to secure the scenes, and they just kept hearing more of the what sounded like fireworks and things like that. At this time, they knew it was gunshots. At 6:13, a deputy reported hearing what appeared to be a final one, and then at 6:16, flames became visible from the garage. At 6:22, officers entered the backyard and found Smith also suffering from a wound, and officers began life-saving efforts before he was transported to the hospital. At 6:44, the front of the house was completely engulfed in flames. Investigators believe that multiple fires had been started inside of the home before law enforcement arrived. Because the home was outside Billings city limits and the neighborhood had no fire hydrants, obviously it was hard. So they had to bring a fire truck that had water. And so that's why it was so hard to, to control the fire and to stop the fire from engulfing the homes. So who was Alan Smith? Alan Smith is described by his brother as a hermit who spent much of his time alone in his room using a computer. His brother told the Associated Press that there had been what he considered warning signs and that people had previously expressed concerns. Typically, in cases like this, there are warning signs. There are warning signs. I just don't know what we can do about those warning signs because obviously, I don't know, but there are always warning signs in cases like this. So it says Smith attended Washington University and graduated with a bachelor's degree in 2020, according to the university spokesperson cited by Newsweek. Reports indicated that Smith had struggled to find and maintain employment. However, a search of criminal records in Montana and Washington reportedly found that he was previously arrested on criminal charges. Yellowstone County authorities said that they had no prior contact with Smith and had not previously been called to the residence. His brother said that Smith had lived with their parents for 4 years before being asked to move out several weeks before this incident happened. He reportedly had never been known to be physically violent, although his brother described him as sometimes verbally abusive. And so we will continue to follow this story um, along the way to see what comes of the story. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many tragedies going on, and so I wanted to take a moment to say, if you're listening to all of these things, if you are a true crime watcher and you watch and you have, your phone has notifications about breaking news and all of the different things, I will encourage you to take a break sometimes and read some of the good stories because there are some really, really, really good stories out there. So I think what I'm going to start doing is bringing some of those good stories in, kind of like I brought this nonprofit in. It just warms my soul to think about people out there that have these nonprofits that spend their time helping people. They spend their time showing us what compassion actually is. They actually do the legwork. So they're not just praying for people or talking about it or different things like that. They're actually physically doing the work. And those are the things that we need to turn to when times get really, really hard in this world. I think they had said that wasn't Mr. Rogers that had said that in times of trouble and emergencies and things like that, to look to the helpers. I can't remember exactly who it was that said that phrase, but look to the helpers because the news can get dark pretty fast. There are a lot of people that are disturbed out there. There are a lot of people that are stressed. There are a lot of people that are going through so many different things. And there are usually clues that there's something happening um, to the person. And it's just, I think our society is struggling with what to do with those clues that we see when we notice that somebody is struggling, is the what to do part of it that we're struggling with. And so I'm going to do some research and see what we can actually do when people are struggling, when we see clues from our friends, our family, we just see things online that can become concerning. The what to do part of it, I'm not quite sure because, of course, every situation is unique, but there are clues and it is the what to do about those clues. And so thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Please leave a comment and let me know how you're doing out there. Let me know what are some things that you do that help you to deal with all of the tragic mess that there is out there in this world so that we too can do them as we're reading in the comments and things like that. Thank you guys for liking and subscribing. Thank you guys for clicking that like button and things like that. I get notifications every time you do that, and that actually makes me feel good and things like that. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and I will catch up with you guys soon. All right. Thank you.